pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I have a roll call, please?
Al.
Present.
Juanita. Here. Terry. Present. Michelle.
Here.
Kate.
Here.
Gladys.
Here.
Mary is out. Lauren. You should be great. Richard Hawley.
Here.
Richard Janelli.
He's absent.
And
Thank you. So we have 10 present.
yes. Yes.
Public participation. The board welcomes public participation and asks the comments be limited to 3 minutes. The public may offer objective comments of school operation and programs that concern them. The board would not permit an expression of personal complaints, of defamatory comments about Board of Education personnel and students, nor against any person connected with the Danbury Public Schools. At this time, we will start our public participation. The first person that signed is Heather. Everyone is limited to 3 minutes.
Is this on? Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Lorenz. I'm a resident of Danbury and a teacher at Danbury High School. Most of you know me very well, and you know my love for this district and the love of our students, our staff. This has been a really difficult year. I was one of the teachers that was hit in December, and along with another colleague of mine who is now pretty ill. I'm here because the safety of students and teachers, in my opinion, should be the #1 priority of this district, and I really haven't felt that. I'm sorry, I'm usually much more composed than this. I am actually afraid. For the first time in 18 years of teaching, I am sometimes afraid in my school. We are overcrowded. There are not enough adults to go around. There are not enough safety advocates. They aren't paid well enough. They don't even get benefits, so we can't keep them around. There is a problem, a significant problem at Danbury High School. We've all known about the overcrowding. I don't think you understand. I actually have been pushed and shoved, not intentionally by kids, but because there's just swarms and swarms of kids. It is unbelievable what it's like there this year, and it's most especially on the floor that I'm on, which is D3. It is probably the most populated floor in the entire school, and we don't have enough money. And this budget that's coming up, and the current budget and next year's budget does not, in my opinion, prioritize our safety and health, or the students' safety and health. And I am begging you, I'm literally begging you to please do something about it. Please get working cameras everywhere in the building. Please. Please get more safety advocates in the building. Please pay them a fair wage and give them benefits so they're not afraid that they're going to get hurt on the job. Please do something. Because otherwise, pretty soon you will have no teachers. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I'm sorry I'm coming across so emotional, but there's nothing else I can do except show you how raw it is. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you for bringing your comments to the board tonight. Thank you. Adam?
Good evening. My name is Al Khan. I'm a student at Broadview Middle School, and I just want to address something about my own personal beliefs. Growing up in a mixed family, I saw that it's hard to fit in. I'm half Pakistani and half white. One side of my family is Christian, and the other side is Muslim. When I was younger, I never noticed how difficult it was to transfer between one side and another side. The different responses I have received from students, family members about my two sides. I've noticed that it's pretty hard to deal with these two sides. And on the side where I'm Muslim, I know that I am loved and I have so much love inside of me. Throughout this, there is a holiday called Eid. On this holiday, we stay up so late. We celebrate this month after the month of Ramadan, where we fast almost every single day. I'm asking you guys nicely and pleasing you for a day off. It is hard to go back to school the next day with dealing with all that stress, the makeup of work. Those assignments add up. And I know this might seem a lot, but my parents are pretty hard on my grades, so I'm just asking you guys, if you can get Eid off, that would mean everything to me. I also noticed other schools getting Eid off. There's also other holidays like Yom Kippur, Good Friday, and Christmas. So I'm asking why not Eid? I hope this speech finds you well. Have a good day.
Thank you for your comment. Sarah?
Good evening. My name is Sarah Sayan, and Good evening. My name is Sarah Sayan, and I'm a student in Broadview Middle School. Living in New York my whole life, we had Eid off. After moving to Danbury, I learned that no one at school knew what Eid was or what my religion even is. My heart sank as I had to make up 3 tests and what felt like 100 assignments the next day since I had to miss school for Eid. My parents are very strict when it comes to my education, so it took them a lot of debating before finalizing that I shouldn't have to go to school on Eid. It made them sad too, knowing that me and my little brother had to struggle just because we wanted to follow our religious traditions and be with our loved ones on a special day that meant so much to us. What makes it harder is that people at school had no clue what Eid was, and every time I mentioned it, they were like, "What's that?" or like, "That has to be made up." I always try my best to be inclusive when the other holidays come out, like Hanukkah or Christmas. I say Merry Christmas to my friends that celebrate Christmas because I know it makes them so happy. I don't want to ask for too much. I just want to be able to say Eid without having to give a speech on what Eid is all the time. I love living in Danbury, but when my favorite day comes around the corner, I get stressed and I have to balance so many things, and I am still a kid after all. I miss being able to enjoy waking up and not worrying what I'm missing out on. But I know it's about more than just how I feel about the work I have to make up. If the entire district takes off for Eid, we can celebrate diverse holidays and encourage an environment of inclusiveness. We would be allowing students to learn about different cultures and help students appreciate the diversity of Danbury. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ma'am? Ma'am?
My name is Miriam Aziz. I'm a senior at Danbury High School. Since the last Board of Ed meeting on January 24th, many families from my community in Danbury contacted me asking about our Eid proposal because they want to support it and get involved, including our community leaders and Muslim civil rights organization. However, our personal experience as students with the leadership of Danbury schools, teachers, and staff encourage us to believe in this board, and this board will continue to work with us students to list the Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha days as holidays on the calendar of our schools. We met with the superintendent last year. He was supportive and encouraging, and he advised us to bring our proposal to the new board. Because he told us it would be difficult to add the Eid holidays to the 2023 to 2024 year, we are proposing it to be added to the 2024 to 2025 and following years' calendars. Recognizing Eid as a holiday and closing Danbury schools would provide Muslim students with long overdue accommodation. Stanford, Manchester, Bridgeport, Trumbull, Fairfield, New Haven, Hamden, Norwalk, Waterbury already have the Eid holiday off, and we believe that Danbury should be on this list. Danbury has dedicated days off from school for many non-religious and religious holidays, including Yom Kippur and Good Friday. Muslim students have been victims of high levels of Islamophobic sentiment and Islamophobia in U.S. public schools. It is a prevalent and ongoing problem, according to a nationwide poll taken in 2020 by the Council on American Islamic Relations, which found 51% of Muslim students in K-12 grade face religious bullying, more than twice the reported national average of 20%. Some young Muslims experience anxiety, depression, insomnia, and low self-esteem, while others feel they must choose between being American or Muslim at school. Having the Eid holiday off is a way to promote cultural engagement and a way to change outdated stereotypes through education, which starts in schools where children are supposed to learn about cultural diversity and acceptance. If you find this needs further discussion, the Muslim community and the students of Danbury
We would like to, we don't want to stop you in a minute. We are giving everyone 3 minutes,
Okay, thank you.
okay? Thank you very much. Serena?
Hello, everyone. Danbury is a diverse city, and students across the district represent a vast array of cultures and religions. Muslims make up a sizable amount of our home, which becomes painfully evident when I see the amount of students struggle to make up assignments and tests after Eid. Excused absence means nothing when students are left no time to breathe after their absence. Equal representation is core to our campaign to make both Eids district-wide holidays, but each year I witness dozens of my classmates struggle with their mental health during what is meant to be a time of celebration and bliss. I want my classmates to enjoy their religious holidays, just as I enjoy Christmas, Easter, Good Friday, and every other religiously significant day. I have the privilege of celebrating with Eid. I'm sure you all want the same for all Danbury students as well. As a member of Danbury High School Student Council, I am usually obliged to attend at least one Board of Ed meeting a month, but I come here completely for my own will, because I come here with a moral responsibility to advocate for the students I represent. Every year, dozens of our students fall behind simply because they celebrate Eid. There are 2 Eids, but only one currently falls in the school year. Needless to say, since Muslim holidays follow a different calendar, that will eventually change, and the Danbury School District must be ready to accommodate for students when that time comes. Students deserve to celebrate their religion without worrying about school, and a large sum of us take this for granted. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Sarai. If I did not pronounce your name wrong, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Soraya Lobau. I'm a teacher at Danbury High School, and I apologize, just like Heather. This is an emotional topic. I've been teaching at Danbury High School for 10th year. This is my 10th year now. 2021, I was named Teacher of the Year here at Danbury. As anyone who knows me, this for me is my calling. It's not a job. And Heather is right. What is happening at Danbury High School is beyond acceptable. We're here talking about increasing reading scores, math scores, and I'm sure the Board of Ed, you have pressures from the state to get funding, whatever that is. The pandemic didn't help things. But there's so much emphasis on numbers, on statistics. Right now, we are barely keeping our heads above water with the safety and the lack of disrespect to teachers. This year alone, pretty much on a weekly basis now, I've seen fights on D3. I'm also on D3, and it's not just D3, it's everywhere. I've been called the F word, the B word. I've been pretty much kids, just not everyone, but enough where it's not just me. I've witnessed, dealing with hearing how my colleagues are being punched. I'm asking you, and I know you have to focus on numbers, but what we're looking at is Maslow's hierarchy of need. You're focusing on actualization versus the safety. Please provide our administrators with money, support, training that they need to conduct monthly safety committee meetings, give them the training they need to manage these things, because you are gonna lose a lot of teachers. Teachers don't wanna leave, but they're having to leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to speak that did not come and speak and did not sign up? One opportunity for 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Maria Khan. I am actually a 2020 graduate of DHS, proud alumni. And I just want to speak on both topics that the volunteers have spoken on tonight. As someone that had graduated in 2020 at DHS, it was obviously very different from what I'm hearing now, but at the same time, we endured fights just like she's explaining now. It is almost embarrassing to think that I am a college graduate now and we are still enduring these problems. And to think that these issues are just arising and you're still doing nothing, that's such a concern. It's only getting worse. Teachers are getting punched now. I just want you to think about that. In my case scenario, it would only happen from student to student, and I was the year that we got accredited. Amazing. But you're letting teachers get punched and hurt. Just think about how that's affecting their safety and wanting teachers to stay. There's obviously other factors that are making them want to leave, but now you're letting them get hurt and putting them at risk of the job. I just want you to think about that, because these teachers are the reason why I do what I do today. These teachers are why I am the person I am today, and I cannot thank them enough. These are the teachers that will leave an impact on us. And if you want them to go, they're ready to go. I just want to remind you of that. And as for the kids that are fighting to get Eid off, these holidays mean as much as Christmas does to you. I want you to think about that as well, because if you get Christmas off, that's amazing. You get to celebrate that big part of your Christian belief. They have Muslim beliefs they believe in too. Consider that. And consider those Ramadan holidays, the Eid holiday. Those are as significant as your Christmas holiday, your Good Friday, your Easter, whatever it may be. Just those two the topics that were brought up tonight mean so much to me. And I want you to consider that if the safety was an issue when I was in high school from 2016 to 2020, and it's still an issue, it needs to be resolved. And the fact that I did not get Eid off as a holiday when I was in high school, it's still an issue. And that the fact that it's still not been resolved to this day as we are standing in 2024, that is a problem. And it needs to be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, public participation has been closed. We will go right into our agenda for tonight. I need a motion to accept the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approve the items on the consent calendar, exhibits 24-21 through 24-30 as recommended.
Motion made by Kate, could I hear a second? Seconded by Al. Any question concerning the consent calendar? Seeing none, all in favor of the consent calendar, could I hear aye? Aye. Motion so carried. We're gonna move down the agenda to the action item. Action item A, Kate,
I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approve the Danbury Public Schools 2024-2025 calendar in accordance with exhibit 24-31.
motion made by Kate, could I hear a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Louisa. Any question concerning this motion?
Yep.
Yes.
I can. I just wanted to point out that from the last calendar that you saw to this one, the 2025-2026, there was a change. There was an error on the indication for the Rosh Hashanah date. So it was originally listed as the 23rd, it has been corrected to the 22nd, and that has been noted on the calendar in your packet.
24, 25?
For 25-26, the date was changed from the 23rd to the 22nd, and I did indicate that in yellow in your packet, just so that you were aware that that was a change from what you previously had seen.
Yes, Kate.
With regard to the advocacy we've heard from our students,
Is your mic on, Kate? Because we
my
can't
mic is
hear.
on.
Yeah, okay.
With regard to the advocacy that we've heard from some of our students at the last two meetings, can we just clarify, Dr. Casimiro, when we do an approval on a calendar like this, what can happen after that? Can we make amendments to the calendar? how frequently does that happen?
I mean, there have been times when we have made amendments after we've submitted a calendar, usually because either there had to be a change in the school year, we found an error that was unanticipated, we've done that. The school calendars that are presented here were actually kind of late in the season here to get the 24-25 calendar in. But certainly, if the board wishes to make an amendment down the line, in recognition of some of the things that we heard tonight, that would be the board's choice to do that.
May I ask a follow-up question, Madam Chair?
Yes.
My follow-up question is, I understand that there's a process that we have to go through in approving new holidays to be added to the calendar that involves contractual paperwork with some of our bargaining units. Is there some way that we can demonstrate recognition of the concerns that were brought forward, perhaps develop an internal policy where we don't have tests or quizzes or major projects that are due on those two holidays?
Absolutely, I think it's a good suggestion. In theory, that is what is supposed to happen. That we have, students have the ability to have an excused, recognized day off for religious services. But unfortunately, I don't think, with the way that the academic calendar flows, some folks may not necessarily, recognize that fully and appreciate what is happening. But certainly that could be something that can be brought up through policy or through have a regulation around particularly student work and an acknowledgement of religious holidays.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kesmer.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Can I hear aye? Aye. Motion so carried. Action item B, Teresa?
B, Danbury Public Schools 2025-2026 calendar. Motion that the Board of Education approve the Danbury Public Schools 2025-2026 calendar in accordance with Exhibit 24-32.
Motion made by Teresa. Could I hear a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Al. Any questions concerning Exhibit 2432? Juanita?
Okay, I don't know if I can ask a question with regard to the Eid holiday, and does it fall on the same day every year? No.
I believe the calendar for 25-26 is the day that falls on I believe it falls down on spring break time.
That's the 25-26 calendar?
Is that a process that you would like for the superintendent to look into?
If I'm not mistaken, there are two Eid holidays. When you say one falls during our break, so I'm trying to figure out when does the other one fall, and is it consistently the same, around the same time each year?
It's my understanding that it shifts each year. It's not necessarily consistent. I believe this year it's in April. To the back of the room.
It shifts 11 days backward each year, and there's.
I'm sorry, we do not dialogue. I'm sorry, we do not dialogue with each other.
I think this year is April 10th.
If you want to have a conversation, you can have a conversation later. We do not dialogue back and forth with our audience, okay?
That was
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Any other question concerning that exhibit? Seeing none, all in favor? Action item B. Did I hear aye?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Action item
Can I
C.
go on record as opposing?
Okay, we have one. Do you oppose or you abstain?
Oppose.
Okay, so we have one opposed. Action item C.
I make the motion that the Board of Education approve the authorization of signature change form for the ED 099 agreement for child nutrition programs in accordance with, I guess, the state rule, the state legislature. for 24-34. Thank you.
Are you reading action item C?
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. Let me reread
Could
it.
you, let's start all over. I know it's Valentine's Day, but I had assigned that
I make the
action,
motion.
I know it's Valentine's Day, I had assigned that
I didn't have my
exhibit
candy.
to what, Ms. Harris, before you even start.
No chocolate yet.
Okay?
I
Start
make a
right-
motion that the Board of Education approve the authorization of signature change form for the ED 099 agreement for child nutrition programs in accordance with 24-33.
The motion was made by Al, seconded by Juanita. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, could I hear aye?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Now, since Al, you knocked Ms. Harris out of place on Valentine's Day, I'm gonna have to give Juanita, Michelle, would you exchange with Juanita, Juanita do the next one? Action item D.
Action item D, authorization of change to the signatory representative.
Thank you, Michelle.
The motion that the Board of Education approve and authorize a change to the signatory representatives for the Danbury Public Schools and Danbury Public School Lunch Program in accordance with Exhibit 24-34.
Motion was made by Juanita. Could I hear a second by Michelle? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, could I hear aye?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Thank you. Action item E, Mr. Harvey.
That the Board of Education adopt the superintendent's 2024-25 fiscal year budget in the amount of $181,343,995 as presented for submission to mayor as required by the city charter in accordance with Article 24-35.
Motion made by Mr. Hawley. Could I hear a second for that motion? Seconded by Kate. Then we're gonna open it up for discussion at this time. Any discussion, Mr. Hawley?
So, in further consideration from the Finance Board and review with John as far as in the past couple of days, we wish to amend that amount to actually a net budget of $168,160,000. And if I can kindly explain, if we start with 181.3, the contractual agreements as well as, well, basically the contractual agreements have been adjusted somewhat. But in addition, we're expecting an increase from the Alliance grant to the tune of $6,800,000. That comes directly to the Board of Education. We are anticipating an increase from the state ECS funding of $2.8 million. Now that is given to the city and it is the discretion of the city, but in the years past, as I'm to understand, that has been passed along back to the Board of Education. And then we also I anticipated a savings as far as retirements of $200,000 based on 20 employees at $10,000 per year, which basically nets us out at $168,160,000.
Run those numbers down again, Mr. Hall.
Okay, so if we start with the baseline budget of $150 million, we have the 2024 loss of ESSER money in the amount of $10,800,000. Contractual agreements, contracts, salaries, health benefits, transportation to the tune of $5.7 million. Those are a clear increase over the current budget planned for the 24-25 budget. Budget drivers, basically our wish list, totals $9.6 million. That would include the new positions, FTEs, and all the support staff to address the enrollment growth, to address the transportation needs, as well as to address the special education mandates. Lastly, we have the capital expenditures, although we feel, and many people That should basically move to the operational budget to be placed either under technologies or supplies to the tune of $1.86 million. So grand total in terms of the grant is $177,960,000. So basically $178 million. Again, taking away the anticipated increase from the Alliance grant, which is $6.8 million, the anticipated increase from ECS funding, which is $2.8 million, and the expected retirement savings of $200,000, brings us to a net budget of $168,160,000.
My question would be, have there been any discussion with our finance department or chairperson of the finance committee?
I have spoken to Mr. Janelli as well as John during the course of the afternoon.
Yes, Kate.
Thank you for bringing that information forward, Mr. Hawley. I'm hesitant to commit to numbers from the state. We don't have that information yet. Currently, the governor is proposing over $60 million in cuts to the education funding that was just approved last session by our legislature. So I'm a little reluctant to take for granted that we're going to see these numbers come through to Danbury for next budget cycle. It's a real gamble on our part to do that.
Yes, Juanita. Then Louise.
I would hate to have us sitting here in the same position that we started out with when I came onto the board. You're using the term anticipate, which is not to say that you're going to get it. And so I'm a little leery about dropping down to that number in anticipation.
Yes, Ms. Louisa. Let Louisa answer a question, then I
Yeah.
come back.
I just have a question. Have we drawn down on all of our ESSER money? Is it at zero?
It will be at the end of June. It's all designated.
Yes. And then Mr. Harden, then the superintendent.
So again, in correspondence with John and Mr. Janelli, who I believe has been speaking to Julie Kishner, he's confident, although to Kate's point, the State of the Union and the state of the financial, that the governor had imposed, he is very confident and comfortable with that increase as far as Alliance grant and ECS funding.
Superintendent.
Thank you, and I certainly appreciate your general analysis on this. However, I'm very uncomfortable in the 11th hour making a change from what has already been proposed and discussed at length. I certainly was not a part of that conversation to present it in that manner. And the Alliance grant historically is supposed to be supplemental. It's supposed to be viewed as supplemental to support school systems, high-need school systems. There are categories that money needs to be spent in: high-need students, second language learners, innovation, college and career. They're very specific categories. In the past, we have not, in this way, put up an anticipated amount up against our budget. Certainly, we've had to rely on the Alliance grant to kind of save the day when we did not get our ask from the city, and that has happened. But the Alliance grant should be supplemental and not supplanting funds that we should anticipate from other sources. So I just want to put that out there, and I do have a question, John, if that was your understanding coming out of most recent meetings.
Right. If I could, I think think at the minimum, there need to be 2 resolutions. There absolutely has to be a resolution on the total spending. If you'd like to have a second resolution that has to do with revenues and things like that, that's fine. There's 2 reasons why we need at least a single resolution on the appropriations. One is practically speaking. 2 of the last 3 years, we've tried to combine revenues and expenditures in a resolution, and it didn't work. In June of 2021, for the 21-22 budget, the board's resolution included a drawdown of educational reserves, $2.4 million to be added to the appropriations, and that's what we started spending as the year went on. But when we got over in front of the city council with the next budget, they said, why did you do this? Only we can authorize the drawdown of reserve. And that's what led to some of the confusion that year. We had to make a special request, and it wasn't until May that we met their requirements for how to draw down that reserve. It was specifically for certain things. The second mistake we made was in the current budget. We adopted a budget that was not balanced. The savings amount of $4.7 million, we're still trying to work our way out of that. We're optimistic, but it's not up to us. The city likewise has to approve that. So that's the first reason, the practical nature of the way the city funds us. The second reason you need to advocate for separate resolutions really comes from the state law. And it's Education Law 10-222 that requires you to adopt an itemization of expenses for next year. I'll just read you very briefly. Each local board of ed shall prepare an itemized estimate of the cost of the public schools for the ensuing year. That's what you have attached to your item, an itemized estimate, and shall submit such estimate to the Board of Finance in each town or city having a Board of Finance, to the Board of Selectmen if each town has no Board of Finance, or to the authority making appropriations for the school budgets in your district, which is our case. So we have to have that estimate of the appropriations. And then, secondly, to Kara's point, the Alliance is a whole set of additional spending. It's not, you could say, we have our $181 million in front of us, but there's another $22 million this year that goes for primarily full-day kindergarten and things like that. So you really should not blend those two together. It's a long answer.
Teresa.
Being I've only been on the board for this going into my 3rd year, I was shocked to read about the governor's State of the Union address and finding out ESSER funds were not supposed to be used for payroll, for permanent positions. So, and now he's saying it's tough for the people who did, sayonara. So, our management of those funds creating this problem now.
I just want to ask, and I feel very uncomfortable at this late hour, and I have to agree with the superintendent, to make a change in what we have been trying to put together a budget to present to City Hall tomorrow. We're talking about making changes. And why this information wasn't brought to at least the superintendent just a little bit early in some type of form. I don't know who else, maybe everybody else is comfortable just saying, yeah, let's make the changes. I'm not comfortable, and I'm not no finance person, okay? That's why we have the people sitting around the table. We have bought into this business of ours to help make the decision with us. So, you know, maybe somebody else have comments. Yes.
So, do we have any firm numbers from the state in regard to our ECS funding for 24-25?
In Connecticut, there's a two-year budget, biennial budget, and this July begins the second year of the two-year budget, and so there are firm numbers for ECS that were adopted by the General Assembly last June. But the reason the Assembly gets together for what's called a short session is really to look at the revenues to see if they're coming in the way they thought they were coming in a year earlier. Maybe the casino revenues are down or state income taxes are up or something like that. The purpose is really to look at that to see if the taxes need to be changed. However, what really happens is new proposals come in. You've heard of those, you're seeing those from the governor, there'll be some from the Assembly. And that process will actually play out the way it did last June with changes in both the state aid amounts, I suspect, and other spending amounts. Everything is free game, although it's not the original intent of the short session.
So if I may, John, so in that regard, as far as the anticipated budget in 2025, was not $9.6 million more allocated or slotted to be received by Danbury?
Well, we know two things, I think, from authoritative sources. We know that the governor's budget includes ECS, and within that is the Alliance grant, and that is $45 million next year, the same as it is this year. $45 million includes about a $22 million Alliance grant. The rest goes to the city for state aid. But we also know from talking with the state education department and their officials that as soon as the state received our October 1 enrollment numbers, which of course they didn't have last June, that would trigger an increase in the Alliance grant with the existing formula. And when we spoke with them, they said the calculation of our October enrollment would mean an additional $6.8 million coming to Danbury in terms of a larger Alliance grant, which means a larger ECS grant. Kind of complicated, but those things are known numbers.
Okay.
Mr. Holy, quick question for you. In looking at the original number of 181 million and the new proposed 168 million, there's a $13 million gap there. And if, you know, taking into account the approximate $10 million in outside funding from Alliance, ECS, and the internal savings, retirement savings, I'm still coming up short of $3 million that we had at some point had in that previous incarnation of the budget proposal. Do you know what's in that $3 million?
Changing contractual agreements and budget drivers. Budget drivers were originally 10.7. From speaking to John this afternoon, he had reviewed that number to be 9.6. Contractual 7.1 to 5.7, and then the additional, you know, retirement savings, 100K to 200K.
I mean, if I'm looking at this, you're counting the retirement savings twice?
No.
Because I'm looking at that in the original number, the 6 million in Alliance, 2.8 in ECS, and then 200K in retirement savings?
Correct. Originally from last night's meeting was 100K as far as the retirement savings. So we're estimating 20 employees at 10,000 per. So a change of 10 employees at 110,000 per.
Okay, so that 3 million, just to clarify, is contractual?
Contractual, budget drivers, retirement.
And when you say contractual, can you just clarify that for me?
Contractual agreements from basically salaries, health, and transportation. That is 2023, and renewed or additional raises, salaries, health benefits for 24-25 season.
Meaning that we expect to save that amount of money, or?
No, that means that's the additional expense to carry the same personnel from the 2023-24 school year to 24-25 school year.
And then the budget drivers, do you have a breakdown?
10-7 to 9-6, and 10-7 was in John's exhibit from last Tuesday or yesterday, and upon review this afternoon, he gave me a number of 9-6.
May I follow up?
Yes.
Mr. Spank, could you shed some light on the budget driver drop and how that new number was reached?
Well, when we spoke this afternoon, talked about calculating contractual requirements in next year's budget. And we talked about that including the labor contracts and some of the benefits that go with that. The transportation contract with STA, that's a multi-year. And we included some of the special ed out of district tuitions that we just know we're going to have next year. But when you just, if you only consider that as what you're going to do next year, you're not including the things that are not necessarily contractual agreements. For example, supplies. Could we go a year without, are we obligated to get supplies? No. But do we need them? Yes. If you look here at things like dues and fees, an example might be our membership at CABE or something like that. Do we have to do that? No. But what the original set of drivers on the page you saw took what we're doing this year and said, what will it cost next year? So it included things that are not contractually required, and I think that's the difference between the number you had and the lower number you're hearing now.
I guess I'm looking for some specifics there, just to understand what it is that we're looking to cut for next year.
Things that are not contractually required. That's how I heard. We're not one of those 4 contractual situations.
Right, I understand. I guess there are a lot of things that are not contractually required that we do in this district, so I'm just looking for some specifics, that's all.
It would be everything other than teachers and their benefits. Or I should say, all staff that are members of the bargaining unit and their benefits. Transportation and special ed tuitions, they make up the number that would be carried forward. Everything else is not it.
Okay, thank you.
My question would be, what will change if the board look at the number that's on the action item? $181,343,995. That's the amount, the original amount. So we have another number that's going to be lower than that, 168 million. And I'm not sure that's going to take care of what we need to do as a board. That's what I'm thinking. So I don't know how anyone else feels, but there's a motion on the floor to accept this.
I understand, Madam Chair, what you're saying, but we are all under the assumption that we're actually going to receive 181 million. And we have no guarantee that we're going to get that money. So we have to think about that as well. There's a lot of ifs with the 181 million. So, you know, I understand what we're saying as far as it being a little bit, you know, last minute. But I would rather put my name to a realistic number that we can actually wrap our heads around and understand what we're getting into. And if these are the numbers that John is explaining to us are the actual numbers, you know, I would prefer to be realistic about this rather than going in and just hoping that we're gonna get that money and then end up back here at this table talking about what we can't do anymore.
Well, you know, I think we're all trying to be realistic. And I heard what John said, and I also heard what Mr. Hawley said. And again, I'm not a number person, but I also think that none of us think that the city hall is gonna give us $181 million. We are very clear on that, okay? Now, are we gonna get 168 million? That's an if too. I'm saying that we, this group has worked very hard, come out to a lot of meetings, and we have discussed this budget time after time after time. And now we're here at the last hour, which it has to go to City Hall with these numbers, okay? We invited the chairperson of the Education Committee and the mayor and the finance director to be here tonight to share this information. And I don't see them, okay? So we're not sitting here saying that we're gonna get the amount that we anticipated. I just don't fully understand the complete jump from then up until now. The amount that this board needs to approve. Okay. So, the superintendent, you want to say something?
Thank you. I agree. You know, when we look at 181 million, I think we all look at that and say, okay, that's a pretty big mountain to climb. But I think we're in this place now at this time because of years of not asking for the correct amount. For assuming that we're not going to get it anyway, so don't ask. And for shortchanging the true needs of the district. And so while this, yes, this is a quite an impressive amount to go forward to the city, we all respect the position that they're in. But I also think that we have to respect the position that we're in, and respect our schools, our teachers. We heard testimony tonight that we do have needs. We spent a lot of time going through articulating those as a group. You know, what I think we all arrived at the, I'm not a voting member, at the 181 through a long series of presentations and documentations and understanding and questioning to arrive at the 181,343. So, you know, that's the number I feel comfortable with at this time, and I'm hoping the rest of the board does as well.
I'm sorry, Laura.
You're fine. I was just gonna say, we just keep changing the numbers. The numbers are always changing. And it's just concerning how we leave a meeting and we have the 181 number, and then we come into a meeting and now there's 3 people that know a different number. And I don't understand how we keep getting all these different numbers, and there's pockets of people that know and people that should know don't know, and it's very alarming to me. And I'm just not okay with it. Not okay with it.
Okay, Michelle.
I'm just looking at the budget. I agree with Lauren. Every time that we meet and we start looking at the numbers, we are trying to verify what they are. Every time we meet again, the number goes up when we're supposed to be really focusing on trying to kind of really bring in, it's $32 million. Last year's budget was $9 million. What's been put up right now is $18 million. And I don't look at it as going to the mayor or going to the city council. It is going to the people of the community. So I understand that we need, and I was heartbroken to hear the commentary today, and I know that a lot of what was said is accurate, and we need safety in our schools, and we need to educate. I understand that. But we also, I don't care what side you're sitting on, left, Democrat or Republican, undecided. Everybody is committed to education as far as I'm concerned, everybody I've spoken to in this city. How do we afford it? That is the question. $32 million. We're looking at like 60% of our city budget. It was 50%. That's 10% that we need to come up with then for safety, for our police and our fire. So I'm on the side. I agree with Louisa. I think this number needs to be a real number, and I'm hoping that when he goes to the people who represent, that's our mayor. His success is all of our success. You know, we're talking about education. So how do we afford what we need and be realistic? So as far as I'm looking at this number, I know, again, we don't want to turn the lights on budget. But if we have the commitment that you're saying from the funds, and it brings us right kind of in that area, then I don't see how we put forward a 20% increase plus of education to every resident in this city without having an audit for the last 2 years, with still having question about the original $3 million. Since we've been meeting, there's been a $220,000 increase for the magnet school. We have the $400 for the special education. So every time that we're meeting, we're kind of almost addressing unfunded mandates or items that we had a flood and we have to repair. And I understand that's all part of the process, but $32 million, I don't know how the residents in this city that are struggling, how do we afford it? So I'm inclined to be, after that, we are committed to that $32 million every year plus the 5 as it increases. I'm hoping that our delegation will go and be able to, bring in some of that money that hopefully, we're all going to be trying to advocate for, and bring that. I agree, we don't get our fair share from the state, but we have to understand that the mayor and the city council are the people in the city. So it isn't what they will give us or what they won't. I look at it more or less, what can we afford so that when we open those doors, the people that have invested in this school can actually be living in this city and going to the school that they've been begging for. So, I mean, I know that this kind of came out of nowhere, but in the same sense, I think it is a responsible budget. So I know that we need a lot more, and of course, busing, safety, those are big ones here. If we have to massage this number a little bit so that people feel a little bit, like there's a little bit more leeway, I would be inclined to listening to that, but where we were, I've been listening, and I was hoping last night at the Finance Committee meeting that this conversation would have come out of it, and it didn't, so unfortunately, I think we're here now, and, I just thank you for your time.
And
It's low here.
after
So
you, we can't hear you.
the mic is on. It's supposed to be on. Cut. There we go. This is a carry-on of 22 years of an administration that's just kicking the can down the road. And what really frustrates me the most is that head administrator was an educator by trade, which in my view, he didn't help the situation we're in today. And that's the message we have to bring out to the public. We have a lot of new people in Danbury that moved in that don't know the system. They know how, the previous administrations, they're comfortable with what they do. I must say, based on what I've seen so far here, the 181 is not even enough. And in all honesty, but we can't ask the taxpayers, all of us are, to have another tax increase to cover this. I mean, we already got hit hard last year okay? It's money comes out, I don't care if it's a tax increase or not a tax increase, I'm paying more money out of my escrow and my stuff, my tax property, out of my pocket. But I'm also, I don't have anyone in the school system, but I'm willing as a taxpayer, and that's just me, it's just me, okay? I'm not saying everybody's thinking the same way. I'm okay if I increase my property tax a little bit to cover some of this, okay? But we have to let the public know that this is not us bringing this number, it's what's been accumulated for 22 years, okay? So, and hearing, you know, look, we have the same problem we're doing down in Stanford, not as hard as this, but we're all districts is getting hit harder with the ESSER money, you know. But I'm a little reserved. Like I said, 168 sounds like a good number. That's a good just tweaking through. But as of right now, I don't know. We can ask the Danbury people to pay an extra 20% increase on the budget. That's my concern right now.
Louisa?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to be clear that, you know, I think everybody around this table, we are all supporters of the education system in Danbury, and nobody wants, and everybody here understands the position that we have been put in over the past 20 years. We didn't get here in 1 year, and we're not going to get out of this in one budget cycle. I don't see a plan put forward showing me how over the next 5-10 years we are going to get out of the hole that took us 20 years to get into. And I think just coming up with these large numbers, well, while I agree with Al, it's not close to what we need. We have to take it in steps. We have to move in increments that will not suffocate the community as a whole, but yet help us survive and build back up to where our schools need to be. So, you know, again, I understand what the schools need. I understand that we've been underfunded. I understand all of that. I've been advocating for as long as my kids have been in the school. But we have to do it responsibly. And to put out numbers that are not fiscally responsible is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the district. It's not going to help the students. So I would prefer that we make the decisions as to how we're going to spend the money, not City Hall. And so I would want the number to come from here being the number that we need, we get, and move forward with. Thank you.
Al, and then
Just to follow up. So, me being new to the board, and I'm used to looking at budgets, I'm looking at a spending plan from previous years. I haven't seen one. I don't know if there's one. But the other part of it too is, you know, it's, I don't know how to say this. I'll just steal my time for now.
okay, Kate.
I understand where folks are coming from in terms of wanting to deliver what we perceive to be a fiscally responsible budget to the mayor's office and the city council. But we just had a roles and responsibilities workshop about a month and a half ago. And we were reminded at that workshop that our responsibility and our role in this position is to bring forward a budget that addresses the needs of the students in our district, and that when we turn that budget proposal over to the city will make its decisions. And whatever budget we get returned to us, we will work with and figure out how to deliver the best possible educational experience that we can. So I hear and appreciate those concerns, but I urge my fellow board members, let's stay in our lane and remember what our role is in this process.
Michelle, we've been going around, you know, everyone have expressed their concern, and I think we need to either act We either act or you get off the pot. So Michelle.
I have a question regarding our fiscal responsibility. I know that, I think it was Mr. Janelli that had mentioned that whatever we put forward as a board, fiscally reduced, can somebody weigh in on that comment that was made a couple of weeks ago regarding putting this budget forward and having like fiscal, personally responsible for the numbers being put forward, right? And that we have confidence in these numbers.
I think, I do remember Mr. Janelli's comments. I think what they were referring to is if you have an appropriation that falls short, so if you get to the end of the year and you overspend your appropriation, that's where personal liability may be implicated as board members. So you want to make sure that you have enough to cover your year.
Okay.
I think that's what he was referring to.
All right, so not so much. Thank you.
Mom.
John, can you just explain to us how this all happened this afternoon with Mr. Janelli? I know he can't be here tonight, but can you just explain how this?
Might look for some help from Mr. Hawley too. When he called me this afternoon, he asked,
When Mr. Janelli called you?
no,
Okay.
to what we estimated to be the contractual commitments only in the budget, and that's what I then proceeded to calculate. We talked also about state aid and how that actually works here, including the Alliance. That was the discussion.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? My last word would be, and I have to agree with Kate, and I think we're all sitting around the table. We are elected officials. Even though the numbers are not what we want or assume that they should be, we have someone that's sitting around this table that has the degree, that has been working with us fiercely, trying to put together a responsible budget. And when I left here I think it was last week, we attended so many meetings, there was to me, a number that was given to us as board members that we would want to present tonight. As elected officials, we have a role to put together a responsible budget for the needs of our students and everyone that's working. And I say, unless there are any other questions, let's go ahead and we do a roll call on this budget and move on. Mr. Hall.
If I may, and again, from past experience and kind of how previous budgets have been explained to me, as well as being part of it, you basically have an oversized or a grand total operational budget. From that number, you back away anticipated Alliance grant, additional Alliance grant money, as well as ECS money. So the budget that's been prepared actually totals $178 million. It's just that of that $178 million, we're asking the city for $168 of it. Because again, we anticipate $9.6 million in increased funding from the state. Now, is that number questionable? Absolutely. But as John mentioned, from July, we were anticipating $6.8 additional dollars in Alliance and $2.8 million additional dollars in ECS. So if you were to add that to our request, it actually gives us a budget of $178. Or as far as an operational spend budget of $178. And again, just past experience. What we need to spend, what we anticipate to come in as far as additional funding, what's it net out to? So. It's a very difficult balance between financial responsibility to the city, but also best interests of the students. And I believe a $178 million budget does that. And again, but that's for the entire board to decide.
Okay,
It's my understanding that Mr. Janelli is not on board with what was presented tonight. He did text tonight, and I wanted to make sure that his comments were acknowledged.
On board, what number?
He was not comfortable with what was presented tonight. With this assertion.
The new amount 168?
he's not comfortable with the 168.
Okay.
160. So, if there's no other discussion, there's a motion on the floor. It was moved by Mr. Hawley. There was a second by Kate. Could we take we've had discussion, yes.
Just a point of clarification, Madam
Yes.
Chair. The motion was made. Mr. Hawley introduced a possible amended amount, so I just want to clarify which amount we're voting on.
But there was no second to that amendment, number that he did.
Okay.
So we don't have to vote on it.
In the original motion.
So we're with the original motion.
Thank you.
The original motion. Reads, Mr. Hawley, you gonna read the original motion?
I just want to clarify one thing with the motion. There wasn't there was no motion to
Right.
amend on the floor. So you're just hearing the original motion, you'll vote.
So that the Board of Education adopt the superintendent's 2024-25 fiscal year budget in the amount of $181,343,995 as presented for submission to the mayor as required by the city charter in accordance with Article 24-35.
The motion was made by Mr. Hawley, it was seconded by Kate. We're gonna do a roll call vote. Please, Lauren?
Al,
Yes.
Teresa,
No.
Michelle,
No.
Kate,
Yes.
Gladys.
Yes.
Dr. Cronin's absent. Lauren, no. Juanita,
Yes.
Mr. Hawley,
No?
and Louisa. No.
High five.
No, she didn't pass. I'm sorry. So at this point, we have 5 against and 4 in support. So the motion is defeated.
So that means now that you don't have a proposal to send to the board, so you need a new motion. So this board needs to continue to move motions until you reach consensus on a presentation to the city.
Yes, one.
And so at this time, as a member of the Finance Committee, I would like to have before me hard copies of the discussion that went on with Mr. Hawley, Mr. Spang, and to be able to look at and discuss.
Done? It was verbal? It was verbal via the phone? Done? I'd like to make a motion to the board that we adopt a budget for the 24-25 calendar year in the amount of $168 million, $160,000, as amended by Mr. Hawley. That number, in my opinion, will actually grow to $177,960,000 with the expected increases from the Alliance grant and additional ECS state funding.
There's a motion on the floor. Now, there is no second,
Second.
so
Second.
motion seconded by Michelle. Yes, Teresa.
In connection with the possibility for the state grants coming, the ECS, the Alliance, whatever budget is decided on tonight and we get those funds, the city won't deduct those funds from the budget that they're going to give us. That's what it's okay, here's, what is it, 45, whatever it is, for the ECS and Alliance. And, do you know what I'm saying? Does the city have that, possibility of saying, well, the state gave you this, we'll give you less, that type of thing? If we pass a certain number already, but relying on that to come down in the future, not part of this grant, part of this budget?
So, we need a list of itemized expenditures. If that's gonna be 168 million, then we need to know what we have so far that's not gonna go over to the city. We could make a second request, a second resolution, asking them to apply state aid when they make their decisions, or apply grants, but that's uncertain. And if we end up, if we submit a proposal for 168 million, that's, we're gonna have to cut at least $2 million from our existing programs and services that we have there, and I would imagine as well as all of the budget drivers. You can't net revenues against a list of itemized expenditures. You've said no to us twice.
You know, I just would like to remind the board the actions that were just taken. To me, and everyone have their opinion, what you have did is just undermine the administration and our leadership in trying to move our district forward. Everyone has a right to vote the way that we want to, but in voting, we also need to think about what we're doing, how we're doing, and how it looks. Yes.
I'm just really confused because 20 minutes ago, you were telling us that Rich's numbers made sense. And now here we are, you were, and now here we are and we're asking for documentation of, Juanita's asking for documentation of it, and now you're telling us it's not gonna work. I don't know if I'm the only one confused or what is going on, but we need numbers, we need accurate information to make an informed decision, and I think that's half of the reason why most of us said no, because we honestly have no idea what's going on. Because these numbers change so much that we just have no idea.
I thought, I'm sorry if I was misconstrued. The question I heard was, could I explain Mr. Hawley's number? And I tried to explain it based on our telephone conversation. I didn't say I agreed with it. I didn't say it was legal. I didn't say it could go forward. I was just trying to answer the question of how his number was lower than what was here. And I thought I said it's because it did not have things that were not contractual. Things like the Cape dues or supplies. I could have added high school athletics. That's not in his plan either. go down and down. So,
I am sure Mr. Hawley was not trying to do anything that wasn't legal. So I think we're all a little bit offended by that, but I don't know. I'm just getting really upset, and I think this is probably gonna be my last statement because it's not getting pretty. But I just think we're all just looking for accurate information, and it just changes so much. And we know there's lots of moving pieces, but some of us have been on this board long enough to understand, and we don't because we can't.
yeah, last night's finance committee meeting, I think the committee was pretty clear when they ended the meeting that there was going to be a motion for 181,343 that would come tonight. That's what I heard.
Michelle, we didn't Kate.
I sat in on, I'm not on the finance committee, so.
Michelle, we can't.
I'm on the speaker. It's on.
Put it up.
Okay. So I was on that meeting last night, I'm not on the committee, and it was going to be discussed last night. There was a motion that Rich Minelli was looking to make and was not able to make it, and it was pushed into today's meeting. So last night, if it had been discussed, I would have commented, but it was pushed to tonight. And I have to agree with Lauren. It isn't a question, we do not have solid numbers that are consistent from week to week. We have a conversation and within a couple of hours, even if we have the newest document, it is inaccurate. It is very difficult and I think it's been discussed at the ad hocs here in this meeting, the numbers are always moving and we're always adding to them. So I agree with Lauren. I don't have headers, I'm not sure if these $32 million, we don't have audits. We are constantly having to correct the numbers. We were in a meeting here last week, trying to figure out on the capital improvement if it was $150,000 repair or replacement on an $850,000 in capital budget, and there was a meeting happening that evening on that. So there's a lot of confusion for the board members, and it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're sitting on. We can't really have complete confidence, or at least I don't. I'll speak for myself on the numbers that have been provided over the last, especially last year, since the beginning of my 3 years, because of COVID, because we've had, a new program, we've had a lot of moving parts. And I think last year, when we had the whole 4.7, and then the 3 million, and it was deferred for the specific reason that we went ahead and committed $100,000 for 1,300 hours to get those audits completed. They were due to be completed on Thanksgiving, and March 15th should have been the second one. That would have lined us up to be in a great position to understand what our numbers are. That is not the case. We have no audit. We don't even know where we are in the audit, and we're going from 9 million to 32 million is the ask. Again, I have to agree with Lauren and a couple of the other board members that have spoken here tonight as far as, yes, I am all about moving the district forward, but we need to be responsible in how we do it. And I take my position very seriously. And this has to do with making sure that we get our kids as much as we can, but we have to be able to afford it. Thank you.
Okay, my information last night when we left the finance committee meeting, the committee was bringing forth to the full board tonight to accept this action item E with that amount. That was my impression, and I was on that meeting. So, and there was question asked. Did anyone have any questions? Was there any concern? So, Kate?
I would add that number, Mrs. Cooper, was also the one that we resolved at the in-person meeting on the 7th. So that number did not change from the previous finance meeting to the finance meeting last night. I'm very concerned that a conversation was had with the finance director that did not include the full finance committee, that this is coming to light on the evening when we have to take a vote on a lot of information. And I will agree with the sentiment that many of us are confused about the state of the finances that we're in right now. But the bottom line is, we went over this information twice, and there was an opportunity for people to voice their concerns at that time and to suggest that we change that number. It didn't come forward, so I'm struggling to understand why it's come forward now. And I agree with Mrs. Cooper, we're sitting here with our superintendent, who was not part of that conversation, who has looked over the numbers, the same that we have, and gone over this information. And Mr. Holly, I understand you're looking at a final number of 178 million, but that's still 3 million shy of the 181 that the board was looking at. So I'm real confused as to what's going on here.
Mr. Hall.
I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Education adopt the superintendent's 24-25 fiscal year budget in the amount of $181,343,995 as presented for submission to the mayor as required by state charter in accordance with 2435.
Point of order, there's already a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. The person has to withdraw their motion and the second has to be withdrawn. Mr. Hawley, you made a motion of 100 and something, I can't remember the number, you made a motion. Michelle second, so you either withdraw your motion and Michelle withdraw a second.
I wish to withdraw my original motion, and that I move that the Board of Education adopt the superintendent's 24-25 fiscal year budget in the amount of $181,343,995 as presented for submission to the mayor as required by the city charter in accordance with 24-35.
Motion made by Mr. Hawley, second by Kate. Is there any discussion? Could we do roll call?
Al,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Michelle,
No.
Kate,
Yes.
Gladys,
Yes.
Lauren, no. Juanita,
Yes.
Mr. Hawley,
Yes.
and Louisa.
Give me the
3 now.
6 in
yes.
favor
Yeah.
and 3 opposed. Motion so carried. Thank you. Action item 7. Discussion, I'm sorry. The discussion, it should be very brief. We have the bylaw, we sort of changed last year as to one, having a workshop and only having one meeting per month. And the discussion that I've had and felt that we should go back to original 2 meetings per month. And I hope everyone sort of feel that, because it was just a workshop, and we were doing the same thing at a workshop that we was doing at the board meeting. So I don't know if we need to make a motion to amend or do that, or just, Kim, can you help me out?
Sure.
So we
So-
can move forward.
You have a policy, and the board policy requires you to do 2 board meetings a month. Last year, you voted to suspend enforcement of the policy so that you could do 1 meeting and 1 workshop. So now you basically want to lift the suspension and go back to enforcing the policy. So I think you can make a motion to return to enforcement of policy, or I guess this is bylaw 9321, to go back to the original, enforcement of the original policy.
Kate, would you make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we lift the suspension to bylaw 9321 and return to the existing structure of 2 full board meetings a month.
Second. Second by Al. Any discussion? All in favor, could I hear aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you. The superintendent, I would work out a time that we can have a special presentation or workshop that you guys are interested in, because at the initial beginning in January, I sent out a list of things that we want to start looking at as board members. The top priority was the budget, so we're doing the budget. And the next one will be having some information about chronic absenteeism, how to work with the superintendent, how to bring that forward. So that will be our next one, okay? Thank you. Superintendent report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cooper. We'll come back to the budget update timeline and move on to just the academy update first. So we got some wonderful things happening at the high school right now. Our ninth graders completed the first career exploration seminar course. That's our first cohort going to the high school. Dr. Martins, Karina Janelle, the freshman academy principal, and Brent Dean all gave presentations to the ninth graders about the career academy expectations, the selection process, and they spent a great deal of time understanding what each academy offers. They captured all the student populations. We had presentations translated, multiple languages, and it was actually a wonderful experience for the kids. The academy directors and the APs held presentations during Flex repeatedly over a 2-week period, introducing themselves and reviewing all the pathway information. Students got to rotate through each one of those and multiple opportunities to better learn about the pathways in the academies before making their selection. The students did complete their pathway selection process, and so the administration is in the process of reviewing those now. And in the spring, there will be an academy unveiling event where students get to learn which pathways they're in and have a wonderful celebration about the curriculum that they're about to embark on for the next 3 years after that. Super excited about that. Tomorrow we have a special event where we're holding student focus groups for the students who just completed the curriculum that we just wrote, to get their individualized feedback, their collective feedback as groups and as individuals to see how they experience the curriculum and how we can improve that. And we're also running focus groups with the teachers as well to gain their input, so we're excited. We're also building off some of the career pathway courses that are being developed. We're also working with neighboring colleges and universities to plan out several college campus visits that align with some of the academies. So to make it very specific, so as students in ninth grade get a chance to go off and visit, it's actually aligned to the pathways that they have selected. And then last but not least along those lines, on the side note, I'm also working with several universities right now to help build up our dual credit offerings and to work on articulations so that our students can gain college credit while they're taking these elective courses. So super excited. We're seeing price points around $60 for a 3-credit college course and down to $0 depending on student status. So there's some wonderful negotiations happening. I think they're going to be in the making for a while, and it's going to yield a lot of opportunity for our kids. Lastly, the high school's been holding several community and parent engagement nights. In October, they had a bilingual night at the police department. On 1/22, they had a Career Academy Zoom session. On 2/12, they had a Career Academy night for parents. It was postponed due to inclement weather. They'll be rescheduling that one. And there's going to be academy presentations for the 6th graders at Rogers Park on 2/28. 2/29, a presentation at Westside and Broadview. And on 3/11, there'll be a school-wide fair at Danbury High School where 8th graders and families can come and learn about the Academy's high school programs and clubs and all the things that we're about to offer.
Did you see that letter we got from that parent who didn't know anything about the academy model? Or we got it on our emails to the board? I mean, did anybody answer this person?
I think I recall the email that was received. I did have.
I mean,
yeah, but we did have a lot of information go out through Parent Square, so it was surprising to see that. But certainly, we can always bolster our communication around that. One of the reasons we're announcing sort of the dates tonight is because we want to make sure that the attendance of these things are robust. So we'll continue those efforts. Next up, I'll have Dr. Rocco come talk to us a little bit about the AS lottery update. As you're aware, we're in the process of concluding the lottery, then also discussing some of our concerns around the ratios and things that we've been working on to get our participating districts to send more students to us. She's going to give us an update on that.
Good evening, everyone. The lottery officially closed on January 16th. As of January 22nd, there were 689 lottery applicants. 613 of those were Danbury residents. 76 were from other towns. Currently, we have extended invitations to 40 families. We are not able to accept all 76 applicants because their home districts have caps on the numbers of seats that they will allow. And with the currently enrolled students from those towns, we can only fill the vacant seats from Exeter fifth graders or any other Exeter students. So I'll give you an example to make it clear. One of our partner towns has an agreement to hold 18 seats for that town. For this current school year, they have filled all 18 seats. They will have 4 students who exit as fifth graders at the end of this year. So we can only fill 4 seats to bring them back to their cap of 18. That partner district happens to have 26 applicants. So we will wait list the other 22 when we enter those 4 in to get them back to their cap. So it may seem like, well, we have 76 families, but we have to abide by the caps of those partner districts. So we can only extend applications at this point in time to 40 of those families. We're beginning to receive calls from families confirming their acceptance of seats. Currently, we've only received 5 calls, but it's still early in the process, so we're hopeful that we will continue to get calls in. Sandy Sanchez will begin reaching out to families who have been accepted to find out what's holding them up, what's keeping them from making the decision, how can we offer them more information to get them to make that decision. As Dr. Casimiro mentioned in a previous meeting, we've been flagged by the state for being out of compliance with the residency standard. Magnet schools cannot exceed a 75% enrollment from a single participating district. On October 1st, with the enrollment collection data, the magnet schools at 75.4% of the students were Danbury residents, so we were just over the 75% threshold. That percentage has dropped slightly, but it's still hovering right around that 75%. Like the last count was 74.4 or something like that, so we're just shy of the 75%. Because of that, we are required to submit a corrective action plan that will be submitted tomorrow. And I'll share some of the strategies that are included in that plan in just a moment. When we look ahead to the 24-25 school year, we're looking at the roll-up of our currently enrolled student numbers. So we're looking at rolling our current kindergarten through 4th grades up to our 1st through 5th grades. When we look at that percentage of students who are Danbury residents and non-Danbury residents, we're currently sitting at 76% of Danbury residents. So that is why we've had to hold off on accepting any Danbury applicants into the lottery. What we really have to do now is get our out-of-town residents in and then proportionally add in our Danbury residents so that we do not go out of compliance again with that 75.5% ratio. We recognize that that's difficult for a lot of our families. We are doing the very best we can. We are going to increase our recruitment plan. And I'll share some of those strategies with you in a moment. If we don't, for this current school year, the state has waived any penalties. But next year, if we're not in compliance with our residency standard, we do risk fiscal penalties to the grant allocation. We are going to be monitoring that data very carefully. The state is also going to be monitoring that data very carefully. We do not want to run into any fiscal penalties. So some of the steps that we have included in the corrective action plan is reestablishing the advisory council. With COVID, it has kind of fallen apart a little bit, the advisory council. Also on the original partnering districts, many of the superintendents are new. So we have to kind of re-energize the feeling about the magnet school, reintroduce those superintendents to our magnet school. Dr. Casimiro has reached out to the superintendents
of the partnering districts that we currently have wait lists for to see if they're interested in increasing the number of seats that they hold. Commercial is being produced. Dr. Seelig is taking the lead on that. He and Merle Jackson, the principal at AIS, are going to join forces to create a video that's going to be shown on YouTube, Facebook channels. Mrs. Jackson is working out a plan to gain access to events in neighboring and partner districts where she can showcase the school and talk to families about AIS. She just recently attended a multi-town basketball event at the PAL building and set up a little table to share information, so she's reaching out in the communities. She will also be reaching out to the superintendent's offices to get permission to speak to at PTO meetings to partner districts to share information about AIS. She's hosting an open house for out-of-district families who have been offered seats, to bring them in, to tour them through the building, introduce them to some teachers, get them familiar with the building, and encourage them to make that decision to commit to AIS. We've also included a form on our district website in place where the lottery application was, which will guide parents to complete a form. That form will then tag Sandy Sanchez, who is the lottery coordinator. She will then reach out to families and gain more information from them about where they live so that we can try to garner more families from our out-of-district partnerships. So we are working very hard to increase our enrollment. It's really going to be critical to get those out-of-district partnerships increased. But we have to be very cautious about the number that we're allowing so that we don't get into a position where we are over-enrolling Danbury residents and face any kind of fiscal penalty.
Yes, Kate.
Thank you for the update, Dr. Randall. Quick question for you. How many other districts currently are sending students to AIS?
So inside the partnership, we have 5 districts: Brookfield and Fairfield, Milford, and Newtown. We also have other participating districts, so they're not within the advisory council, but they can still send their other children. We have students currently this year from Bethel, Waterbury, Stanford, Woodbury, and Trumbull. We have applicants this year from Naugatuck, Newington, and Richfield. Those are new to us in the upcoming school year.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Dr. Parker? Thank you, Dr. Parker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then up next is Mike with a facility update.
Thank you, Dr. Hasegrove. So just a couple of quick things on facilities, largely following up from the Science and Facilities meeting last week. There were a few follow-up items that were requested, 3 specifically. One was a list of shared responsibilities between the Board of Education and City Public Works. That list was, I shared this and a few of the other things with subcommittee chair Britton. The second piece was an update on the Operations Hero software. This is, I was actually in a training today on it, and we've had a training with several of the users. This is something we've ironed out just about every last wrinkle. We fully believe we'll be able to launch this in the next week or 2, so we're feeling very good about that. And then lastly, there were some questions about the warranties on some of the malfunctioning parts that we had on the G Building HVAC system. And there was one other item about warranty, but the G Building one, I put a question out to the city regarding the warranty. It was the Ellsworth roof, that was the other one. Whether there were warranties existing on these 2. I put a question out to the city, but I haven't heard back yet, so hopefully I'll know that within the next week or 2, and I'll share that with the committee chair. There was a recent cold snap that affected G Building. It looks like when they were doing some of the repairs, there was a pump that was actually shut off by mistake. It just never got turned back on, so that wasn't a malfunction. It was just something that happened when the mechanics were doing the changes, so that's back up to speed there. And that's actually all I have on facilities, if there's any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Mike, while you've had Mike, did you want to talk a little bit about the Connecticut Safe
Sure.
Gun Stores law?
Yeah, if you all remember, there was a group that was here, I think it was 2 weeks ago during our meeting, where the Orange Shirts, Connecticut Group for Gun Safety, if you recall, they work with school districts to send out messaging about safe gun storage. I connected with a few of their leadership team shortly after the meeting and received a bunch of materials, letters, and other things that we can send out to families and homes. We've reached out to the Danbury Police Department. It's something that we think we want to do in partnership with the police chief. So we've reached out to them about figuring out just how to craft the message, and then we'll have the superintendent and the police sign on it together, and then we'll be distributing it out to families.
Thank you. Okay, one of the last ones, I think the budget update timeline, I think, was clear when we put this on here last week. Really, obviously, our budget is due tomorrow to the city, to the mayor's office, and we'll be sure to submit that on time. The last thing on here is the Read Across America. And so I just would invite the board members to be on the lookout for invitations to read in our schools. It's probably my favorite time of the year to get to go in and sit with kids and connect with what's happening in the classroom. So between March 2nd and March 6th, you should start to receive some invitations to participate. And I encourage all of our members to celebrate the love of reading and help our students become lifelong readers. And that is it for me.
Thank you, Superintendent. The board chairperson report's going to be sort of brief. I want to start out with on February the 5th. I attended the citywide PTO. I think Michelle was on that call with us. Juanita was on that call. And it was just basically listen to the reports from citywide PTO members giving their report as to the different things that were going on and within the schools that they represent. And so that's basically what we sort of listened to. Dr. Casimira was there. She did a report on the academy, and she also did brief comments concerning the budget and how we were working on the budget. And I appreciated her being there to represent the board. My second thing was on February the 6th, I spoke at City Hall in front of the Common Council, and I'm encouraging board members, when something come up, an issue, and we're there asking for money or whatever we're doing, safety around certain schools, don't feel like just because I'm the chair that you cannot speak. I welcome you to be there to support and back up whatever's going in our district, okay? And I welcome that support, okay? The next item I want to talk about is, this is very feeling and sort of a moody thing about me, and I thought you all asked me to represent you as the board chair. When you get a call from someone, or you get an email from someone, you are to forward that email to the superintendent. You don't take it upon yourself to have a conversation with that person or do whatever you want to do with that person. Those emails go directly to the superintendent. She has a person in charge, or she has the time to get back to that person. Okay? Because, and I know that you know that when we had this roles and responsibility, we can get ourselves in a lot of trouble by opening our mouth at certain things and not being direct. When the press call you, I think you all know what to say. You only have one spokesperson for the board. And you elected me to be that chairperson. If you did not, then take it away from me. Okay? If you want to make any comments about anything, I think it's very easy to say to that person, we have one spokesperson for the board, and that's our chair. Any chairperson that we have had for this board, and I was sitting there when the press or anyone called me, I would say to them, I am not your chairperson. This is the person, and if you want their number, I can give it to you. Okay? So I think we need to be respectable of leadership, and if I'm doing something wrong, you tell me. Again, we have to be careful how we answer things. And we know what we're dealing with here in the district, and be careful. Okay? Finally, I would like for the Personnel Search Committee to think about meeting an hour early on the 28th, so we can have a brief discussion about how we're going to move forward with the personnel search. Okay, if everybody's comfortable with that. Okay, so 28th, we meet an hour early, or whichever, we'll do it about 5:30, okay? And we'll have food for everyone, okay? So we can talk. Yes, Teresa?
Nashville, did we get any more information about hotel or anything?
I did.
Okay, that's all I need.
So if everyone is agreement with that, then we'll move forward with that.
Madam Chair, can I just make one comment? Your meeting of the Personnel Committee is considered a non-meeting, so that will not be subject to FOIA requirements, posting and open attendance.
Okay.
Just to be clear.
Thank you, Kim. I think that's all that I have to say. We need to, it's exciting to go into schools and read with the little ones, but, you gotta be careful because they have colds. So, you don't want to bring a cold back home. But it's exciting. It's exciting because the little ones, 3 to, I say 3rd grade, 4th, 5th, and they like to lay up on your legs, and they like to, get as close to you they possibly can. So just enjoy. It's exciting. So that's all that I have. And if there's no other discussion, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Here, okay, Madam Chair? No.
Madam Chair.
Superintendent. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day.
You have anything else?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, then I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Al, seconded by Michelle, all in favor? Aye. Enjoy your Valentine's